Become Crazy 2000.
Hey everybody, it's the Instigator podcast, and we have a very special guest. This is the anniversary edition of this here podcast, and Third Man In rides again. So we've been waiting a long time to do this, and couldn't think of a better time to do it and bring Eric back on the show after an extended absence. What's going on, man?
Things are good. How are you doing?
Doing okay. Just getting by. Following the hockey team. Feels like things are a heck of a lot different now that these days versus when we started this shindig.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like it feels a little awkward to be like, a typical Zoom. I mean, we're used to it now, but like a little different than just showing up at Starbucks and sitting by the computer and just rambling on nonsense for an hour.
I was just gonna say, like, this is a far different setup than the early days at the McKinley Starbucks in Hamburg there.
Was it Joe from Buffalo Winds who would always say it sounds like you're recording in a wind tunnel?
Yeah.
I mean, you made use of what you had available, and I had a MacBook, and it's like, let's show up and ramble instead of putting words on proverbial paper,
Well, and it's so funny because, like, I mean, when we start, like, I remember we were like, Jesus, so it's like winter of 2011 at this point, right? And we're like,
10 years.
Do you maybe want to do a podcast? Because, I mean, there were 80 million Sabres blogs at that time, but no one was really doing podcasts yet. So it was a different way to kind of stand out amongst the crowd. But.
Yeah. No, and I mean, like, I can remember because I was actually living in Nashville most of that year, and I had moved back to Buffalo that fall and like really got back into the blogging game as it was at the time. And yeah, the podcast thing podcasts really weren't what podcasts are now. Like it was still kind of a new thing. And it's like, this sounds like fun. I feel like it can be a little more casual and having to, because the tough part about writing is like, you can't just write nonsense and not have like sources behind it. You got to have like some value to that. Whereas this, like, we can just ramble on. And what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
Well, definitely the barstool aspect of it is, and not the barstool the blog, but like the barstool deliberation. Like, just two people hanging out. Like, I mean, again, we recorded at a Starbucks, but no real difference than like a few guys hanging out at a bar in some respects and just, shooting the shit about their favorite teams or whatever.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
like
that was always like the spirit behind what we were doing. It's like, we weren't trying to be news people. We were fans who wanted to, talk about the team and be critical and complain about things, we did it.
Wanted to be venomous
ad nauseum. Yeah.
That was the other great thing was like we started this whole thing basically because Bucky wrote that column complaining about the blogosphere.
I was just gonna bring that up. It's like, that first podcast, I think the reason we got together was because we were so like worked up about Bucky Gleason writing an article about the bloggers. It's like, and off we went.
And nothing has changed. Like,
well, I was going to ask you because, like, I know I haven't been around. Like, things are much different now. Like, what is most different to you about things versus what it was like when we were doing this? It's been 7 years. It's been 7 years since I've moved.
Yeah, I just think like the way Twitter and social is impacted it. Like, no one even wants to really write anymore. It's just, you can just, you can throw your thoughts up on a threaded tweet and kind of have a mini blog post, and you get probably more engagement off that than you would if you wrote, if you spent an hour or two writing, 800 or 2,000 words or whatever on the team.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really changed things. And then as a result, like more people then effectively have a voice. So like whatever, I don't know how many people were actually talking about this, but it popped up in my feed a little bit this morning of like Harrington and Hamilton complaining about like goaltending and like the perception of the season. But like, they're taking this and kind of straw manning it in a sense, but like their perception on this is like everyone feels this way, and when it's probably like 15 people in their mentions, I think that's really shifted the landscape.
Yeah. And I mean, Twitter definitely changed things. Like I can remember even while I was still doing stuff, like I was moving more to just sitting on Twitter during games. Instead of like putting a lot of thought into like a long artful piece using my brilliant words and things of that nature, I would make smart ass comment on Twitter, and that was the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
But it also brings more of an echo chamber. And
sure.
As you curate your feed or the people who you allow to follow you, the voices are going to be different because of that. So, and also just I can imagine the way things have been up there probably has some impact on like how people talk about the team. It's unfortunate. Like I wish, I mean, it's been a very unique experience being in Nashville for the last 7 years. Just with, playoff hockey and fun. And it's I feel I'm grateful that I've been able to experience a lot of what I've been able to down here.
Yeah, no, and yeah, obviously that's playing a role too. Is just the losing seasons just pile on top of one another slowly but surely. I mean,
yeah. At this point, like, what do you guys even talk about anymore?
Right, and that's what's so crazy is like they had the first overall pick in the draft, and the biggest narrative, and whether or not you picked up on this, I'm not sure, but like one of the biggest narratives was like people were relatively indifferent about it. They're like, well, cool, we got another first overall pick to use. That sounds great. Maybe we'll see him in a couple of years. Like no one was over the moon about it, and they've had like, I mean, so like the last two draft classes right now for the Sabres like look pretty good, and like a lot of players performing well, but there's just so much reticence. It's just pervasive. I mean, especially when you get like you have like the top level like sickos like we are and we were like who will pour over KHL stats and like look at what a 6th-round pick is doing, but like you get to
know
like,
your way through elite prospects.
Exactly. Yeah, but then you have like you have more casual fans who just don't care, and it's so like I just think I think like there's more. I can't think of the best way to put it, but like there's just so many more levels and it maybe just separation within the fan base, whereas even 5 years ago, coming off those tank seasons, everyone was relatively united in their interest and hope in the future of the team. And I just think the last few years have just zapped that out of them. So,
I mean, like, do you feel there's even like the same? I'm trying to think of like the way I want to put this, but is there the same engagement? Even is it has the engagement changed because of the team, or has it changed because of just the way everyone interacts now? Because like when like 10 years ago, like we were still writing blog pieces and people were reacting to those, whereas now it just seems like it's a constant conversation on Twitter.
that's a really good question because I don't know the answer to it, and part of it is like you kind of mentioned it before, like you kind of get into that potential echo chamber of as you like curate who you're interacting with on social and what what news sources you're taking in, because like every now and then like I'll venture over to like the Sabres Reddit channel. And it's a totally different vibe, totally different atmosphere than what I see on my Twitter feed or what I see from, other blogs or podcasts that I'll still, interact with. So, in a sense, I think there's still like that undercurrent of interests. but I don't know. Yeah, it's hard to say like if if just like the media diet is made everyone different in how they handle it. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like the games I've been to this year, I mean, obviously they're Buffalo's really struggling attendance wise, so and that makes it even harder to gauge just because there's so few people there to begin with. It's not like you can get a sense of people's feelings while you're there even. But I mean, the
Yeah.
people I sat around, the last game I was at was the Flyers game where the Sabres won, and like I was sitting around a few people, like my section was kind of crowded, and like everyone was into it. So I just I don't know if it's just if it's a casual fan issue, which is maybe kind of papering over some of the larger talking points, but if they've just lost that fan who's just like, okay, like I mean, quite frankly, like their marketing approach of when they win, our jobs are easier. Like if that's just the people that they lost, like people are like, well, you're not winning, so I'm not coming around. So
Yeah. I
it's
mean,
so tough.
it's like, it's been a while since I was up there, so not everyone that I interacted with the organization is still there.
Mm-hmm.
But you would like to think things are continuing to, like, I'm trying to think of like the politically correct way to put this, not like just the fact that it's like I'm a professional, like I'm a capital P professional in the industry, kind of thing. And it's like you see they've been doing some good things up there, and I hope that pays off. I know the crowds, it's definitely different going to a hockey game when there's that many empty seats, but in the long run it may benefit them to kind of like it may be beneficial the way they're handling this stretch as far as like on ice success goes. I mean, sometimes there's only so much you can do. And I mean,
Yeah.
every team deals with this. Like, there's only so much you can do when it comes to results. Like, people's experience going to a game, how they feel they got their money's worth, has a lot to do with what happens on the ice. And so much of that is out of your control. And I mean, fortunately, I've been able to see it on the good end here. But yeah, like when you have such a long stretch where it's like you need hope, you need like this means something. And it's like I credit to them for what they've been able to do to keep people around and keep people going. It's yeah. Wouldn't fortunately it's like I wouldn't know,
Well, so it's funny you bring that up because they took some seats out and they put that bandstand in and they have local bands playing and
they're trying stuff. That's good.
Yeah, like they're trying new things. Like they took on a slightly, I think, more robust promo schedule. Like again, like going back to stuff like we talked about, like again, like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Like you're starting to see some of that things that they wouldn't have maybe otherwise tried. Like they're floating those trial balloons, which is great. And I mean, like I took my kid to that Flyers game. He got a mini stick. I took him to another game earlier in the year. He got his first game, certificate. Someone specifically said, like, is this his first, like someone, I don't even remember it was the usher scanning our tickets or at our seats, but they said, make sure you go to guest services. Like, and he got like a flag and a foam finger. He got like 4 things for just
That's awesome.
getting that goofy certificate. So like, they're definitely doing things to try to cultivate that grassroots, kind of fan experience. But yeah, like they're just not winning games and people aren't buying the product right now. And it actually makes me think of like I've been to a couple Preds games now, but the first Preds game I ever went to was in a lost season, very late in the year. It was an April game, and they played Washington. Jaro Halak. It was the year the Sabres traded Halak to the Capitals. Actually,
what a legend!
Yeah,
Sabres legend.
Yeah, but that like the building was still bumping. Like they had been eliminated. Like there was no hope for the Preds, and like I picked up on. I feel like, and again, this is 6-7 years ago now, but
Mhm.
like I was picking up on a lot of things that it just seemed like there was a foundation of, both homegrown, like the fans came up with chants, but also things that the team was doing that, kept people tapped in, which was paying
Yeah.
off.
I mean, like, the thing is, like, the market themselves, like, you have to understand the differences between them. It's like, we just got to the point, like, next year is the Preds' 25th anniversary.
Mhm.
So, like, within the last 5 years, we're finally getting kids who were born with the Predators in existence who can go to a game and buy a beer.
Mhm.
It's like you're finally getting that first real true generation of people who grew up with like the Predators as an entity who are getting to the point where it's like they're going to games themselves, like on their
Yeah.
own volition. And you're starting to see the generational stuff because a lot of people that supported this team, and it's insane the amount of like day one season ticket holders we've got, people who've been around since the early 2000s and stuck with this team even through the late 2000s when there was the ownership changes and the threat of moving the team to Hamilton and like that uncertainty. And it's tough to battle through that stuff. It's like I hear stories all the time of like what it was like around the arena back then. And it's just like it's so different right now. Like
Mhm.
everything seems like that the Preds have finally settled into like being a key part of this town, and it's nice. It's fun. Like you were talking about going to a game. I mean, this is what you would have been like 7-8 years ago. Um, I had been to my first Preds game in like 2011, and like when you're coming from a place like Buffalo, where it's like it's a specific type of experience when you go to a hockey game in Buffalo. Because I mean, I've been to
Mhm.
thousands of them. Um, it's like you're almost like kind of taken aback by like the vibe, but like once you settle in, it's like yeah, there's so much more. Like the crowd just knows it's more of an engaging thing here. And the fact that Nashville's the town that it is, that everyone wants to come visit, usually you've got a good chunk of people in opposing jerseys showing up, where it's not just the Toronto games. Here
Mhm.
we've got a lot of that, and it. I mean, there's always the element to you when you hear other fans cheering in your building when something bad happens, like you don't like it.
Mhm.
So to your own fans, they almost celebrate the goals a little harder, celebrate the wins a little harder. But those are the games that really hurt when you're losing, for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, and you do bring up a good point. Like, I mean, the arena's right there at the top of the biggest tourist stretch in the city. One of
Yeah.
like the hottest tourist stretches like in the country these last couple of years. Like everyone wants to be there.
Yeah.
So like like total like definitely a different vibe than most other places. Quite
Well,
frankly,
like the
it's
interesting
very
thing
unique.
the interesting thing is like um it's been a touch point for like a touchy subject for us. Um having too many opposing fans. And
Mhm.
this is going back to the season I came down here. Um, and every year during the playoffs, when it's some northern or Canadian market playing a team in the South, it'll come out. It's like, oh, they're restricting ticket sales to the local market to try to keep the opposing fans out. It's like we do that. Like our ownership, our management has made it clear they're willing to forego revenue to make sure that it's a good environment for our home fans.
Mhm.
And I mean, it's Chicago games are always touchy, St. Louis. Those are the games you hope are on weekdays so people can't travel as easy.
Mhm.
And I mean, it's a transplant city. So as much as you restrict ticket sales to local addresses, so many people who are Chicago Blackhawks fans from Chicago, they live here now. Like
Mhm.
there's no telling who the guy that lives in an apartment building 3 blocks away from the arena. You don't know where they're from or who they grew up rooting for, and it's like there's so many things you can. There's only so many things you can do to keep them out, but like it's a noticeable difference when you have like you make the effort to get your fans in the building. It's like kind of crazy to think about going back to like growing up in Toronto games where there's easily 10,000 Leafs fans in the building. It's just like thinking about it's like I don't know if I was ever at like a Sabres Leafs game or a Sabres Canadiens game where it was like 90% Sabres fans.
Yeah.
It's just like it was a really unique experience being down here and seeing that practice and that care for making sure your fans want to have the best experience possible and not have annoying, drunk, opposing fans around you at every angle.
Yeah, and so you bring that, you bring up like the Toronto Montreal games, and like I've like thrown this idea around a couple times, like just with friends for the most part. But well, first of all, like, obviously the Sabres really wouldn't even be able to practice that, like the zip code restriction, just because they have so many Canadian fans in their base to begin with.
Yeah.
But I've always wondered, like, and I just like just your general opinion on it, and now like not only having seen it, as a Sabres ticket holder and someone who's attended a billion Sabres games like most of us, but now even seeing it like from your end in Nashville, like do you ever wonder or think like that some of the reasons that sometimes Sabres crowds have or are subdued is because they have so many fans who are like they're Southern Ontario ticket holders who don't necessarily identify as Sabres fans first, and they're just there to go see NHL hockey.
Yeah, I mean there's definitely something to that. And I mean we're I can't say that everyone who buys tickets for Preds games is a Preds fan.
Right. Yeah.
Like it's a tourist town. Like if we have a game on a Saturday night, people are walking up being, hey, like they'll walk up to the window and be like, how much are tickets? Like who they playing tonight? And it's like it's something to do. And it's great because you get people who get to experience that and be like, oh, I had an awesome time in Nashville. I went to a hockey game. Because like who thinks to go to Tennessee and see a hockey game?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a thing now. It's great. But yeah, I mean, you might get more than more so than in, I don't know, Dallas. Like you're going to get people who are like, all right, well, Sabres are playing the Oilers. Let's go see Connor McDavid.
Yeah.
You might get a little more of that. And it could have something to do with it. I don't know. I mean, there are millions of factors that go into something like that. And it's just interesting to think about like what things you could do to influence one way or the other. Like how do you get your fans in the building? That's a battle that every team in the league fights. So everyone's got to take a different angle.
Yeah, more so than usual lately.
Yeah.
So, and you guys have been pretty creative with some stuff that that the Preds do, and like I don't know how involved you are in all of those, just all of those executions, but like whether it be like when they played Winnipeg, they had a jet out front that people were bashing on, but anything that they've done that like stands out to you that some people might not be privy to or might be that familiar with?
Well, I mean, I'm gonna try not to tell too many tales out of school, but I can't, I'm not high enough in the organization to be saying, oh yeah, this was definitely my idea. There are very few things that we've done that I can take any semblance of credit for.
I guess I was thinking more from like just a perspective, like some of the cool things they've done that you've been like, wow, this was awesome. Like,
well, like the interesting thing is you saw like the jet out front, like the smash car, like that's a thing that has become a tradition now because it was just like an idea where they'd made the playoffs and down south and high school and college football, like it was always a thing to do. Like you beat up the car that's painted with the other team's colors, and we kind of took that and over the court as the growth of social media, it's like, oh, get a video of me hitting this car. Like as that kind of like engagement grew, And as we kept making the playoffs and having all these home games, like there was so much of that it became like a thing. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense if you're not from the area and where you don't get like the context of what it's from. But yeah, it's you got to find ways to like embrace who you are and where you are. And yeah, that's one of the cool things we've done. The series didn't turn out the best, but I'm still proud of the organization for stepping up and putting a Thrashers logo on that jet.
But
I remind them where they came from.
I mean, that's a fun thing to do too, though, right? I mean, like just like
Yeah.
those little nods are make things extra special. And,
Yeah, you always try to
mean-
put some like thought into it.
yeah, and it's gotta. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
I was gonna say, I feel like generally we do a good job of like putting thought and effort behind everything we do, and like there's some intent. And yeah, I mean, this organization is in a really good spot right now, especially compared to 15 years ago, because of all the little things that we've done over the years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I mean, Jesus, I was just watching something and a guy had a BlackBerry phone. And I was like, it was like a current show, and I was like, I can't believe I thought they stopped making phones. Like,
Yeah.
it is kind of crazy. Like you think about it, even like the parallels here. Like, I mean, how close the Sabres were to leaving, before Tom Golisano bought the team, and like and all the rumors that the Predators had to deal with before, kind of coming out of that dark period. But
yeah, I was up in Hamilton last month for the U.S. Canada soccer game, and I was staying literally right next door to the arena, and I'm just looking at it, I'm like, couldn't imagine like what my life would look like right now if that team didn't get like stopped from moving.
Mm-hmm. I always wonder how feasible that move would have been, because like Cops Coliseum was new, so long ago. I just feel like they would have been chasing their tail on some things, but
for sure. And I mean,
don't have to worry about that now, I guess.
It was a much different NHL.
Oh yeah,
then, because I mean that was 2007.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Jesus, like so we were 2 years away from the first Winter Classic, and now there's 3 outdoor games a year basically.
Yeah,
got one. I know you guys got one this week, right?
Yeah, this weekend. It's exciting. I mean, it's incredible. Like, so I've been here 7 years. I've gotten to work an NHL All-Star game, Stanley Cup Finals, been to a Winter Classic, and now we're hosting an outdoor game. It's like a testament to like how good of a hockey market this is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and fortunate, like the team's been run very well. Like we've had a lot of success. So it's great. Like, do you even remember like could I ask you right now who the last Sabre to score a playoff goal was? Would you be able to tell me?
Yeah, I do. Unfortunately, Brad Boys. In what I think was 7-1 or 7-2 was that like they got walloped in that game 7 against the Flyers, but
I don't remember what the score was.
He scored late. I just remember he scored late, and the game was long decided. But
yeah. No, like for a while I had been keeping count of like all of the amount of playoff games that we had, like even home games. It's just like losing track now.
So obviously, like the Stanley Cup final doesn't work out for you guys the way you'd have wanted it to, but I have to assume that was still like the most surreal of those special events that you've partaken in, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, and it was funny. Like we kind of had this like rallying cry in the office that whole year, and it was like an inside joke, and I'm not going to get into the origins of it, but like we kept referring to it as the ride, because like when you have a good team, and like honestly right now there's a good parallel with the Bills. Mm-hmm. It's like it's not necessarily about winning as much as it is about the ride. It's like that experience of going through all of that. Like there's enough value to that it's worthwhile, even if the end result isn't there. And I mean, the Stanley Cup Finals was like, insanely surreal. I mean, we had 60,000 people. We shut down Broadway. Like, there's 60,000 people outside watching on screens, just like in the middle of the street in the parks, just like outside the arena watching these games. And I mean, coming from what I had been experiencing in Buffalo, and like within that was the third season I was down there. And I mean, I had never been to a Stanley Cup playoff game. Not playoff game, Stanley Cup final game. I unfortunately didn't get a chance to go in 99. So like to see like the cup on the ice, the players with the patches on their jerseys, all the banners hanging up. It's just like it was a 2-week like it was like a 2-week long stretch of just like realizing it's like, oh, this is it. This is what you work towards. This is what you want to be a part of. And I mean, yeah, it did not end well. And there was like so much happened, but like even more so than just the finals, just that entire spring. Like I can go back to almost every game of that playoff run and think of like at least one thing that happened in either the game or around the game that was like memorable for me. And it was like a 2-month party. I mean, I was exhausted like the rest of the summer, just like mentally and emotionally and physically, just because like, all right, well, every other night you're going out and probably drinking for 2 straight months.
Yeah.
Too old for this shit.
Well, and you even have the additional, like, because, we were around in 05, 06, 06, 07 with, and like you get the buzz around the city and
yeah,
you pick up on it and it's palpable from the fan perspective. But to have that added for like working for the team, I can only imagine it's just like that much, it's that stepped up that much more.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, you kind of get caught up in it. Like, for the organization, like, the biggest moment in, like, franchise history was Game 6, beat Anaheim to go to the Stanley Cup Finals. And, I mean, just the way that game went, like, we went up early and then Anaheim tied it, and it was 3-3 in the third period, and we scored shorthanded go ahead and then buried 2 empty netters, and just, like, the last 5 minutes of the game we're just like, oh my god, this is actually happening. But like, so you're there for that and getting to experience it, like, oh, this is really cool. But then like us as staff, we went up to the club in the arena and we were like, all staff is like drinking together, celebrating, and like Poyle and Laviolette like come up the elevator from the locker room with the trophy and just like plop it down on the table. And you're just like, what? How did I get here? Like, what is happening? What year is it? And yeah, you just have those pinch yourself moments constantly, especially like growing up knowing that it's like this is the kind of stuff you wanted to do. Yeah, it's crazy that it's still happening. Like Saturday with the Stadium Series, like. I mean, obviously, it's the first outdoor game in Tennessee. It's going to be unique seeing a stadium full of hockey fans cross the river from like Nashville. You'll see the skyline in the background. It's going to be wild.
Yeah, it's exciting. Like, and they're Preds are playing well. It's they've managed to kind of in a way bridge a couple generations of their team effectively.
Yeah,
which is
huge. And that's one of the things that's been so like kind of fulfilling over the last like 7 years. Like the team's been so entertaining the whole time.
Must be nice.
Like
must be nice.
Yeah. Listen, I'm not gonna say I'm not here to brag, but I'm gonna brag anyways. But no, like the team's fun to watch. Like there's been good personalities on the team, interesting players. I mean, it's just like stuff happens. Like Tanner Janot, like I just gotta like shout him out. Like he's not getting enough Calder play because like of all the rookies in the league right now, like he is the most unique of all of them because he's like, I think he's second in goals, fifth in points, and first in the league in fights. Like the dude is just a beast, and he works his ass off,
Yeah.
and he's just like so fun to watch, and just like he just comes out of nowhere, and it's crazy. Like you assumed that there was going to be a drop off on the ice at some point, but it really hasn't quite happened yet. I mean, the year we went to the finals, we were the last seed in. We were like the 16 seed, and yeah, we're doing a little better than that this year. So hopefully we get in and do some damage.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff, man. So before we wrap up, what gotta ask, favorite blogging / podcasting memory? We gotta dig deep a little bit before we sign off here.
Oh my god. Now, the one thing I do want to say is like I'm very happy to be past those days. Like I definitely got some fun and like emotional like joy out of like venting as I did, but like I'm glad things worked out when they did because like things were past the expiration date in a lot of senses. But of all the things, like it came up in my Facebook memories like a couple weeks ago because it would have been like the last game that I covered, and it was just like pictures from like in the locker room and like Ted Nolan's press conference after the game because of course Ted Nolan was the coach, you know. But just like for a couple of years the Sabres let me like go and sit in the press box and watch hockey games, and all that was really expected of me was like talking about them.
Yeah,
and
that was like, a cool time, man. It really was.
Yeah, like I'm extremely grateful that like they allowed us to do that, and it definitely changed my view of the organization. Like interacting with all those people like that worked for the team, like I can't speak highly enough about most of the people that I interacted with there. Yeah, you wish that the on ice results would have matched like what the effort that they put into it. But yeah, just being able to like show up at the arena an hour and a half before puck drop, go sit in the press box, watch warm ups, watch the game, and then it's like, oh yeah, we'll just go down to the locker room and like get player quotes after. It's like, what am I doing here? Like, how did I get here?
No, that was great. Like, I think of like the one like of the blogger summits they did, the one where they announced Hockey Hotline was coming back, and they had everyone in the locker room. Like,
oh yeah, that was the one they did in the locker room.
Like, I remember doing our podcast after it, and like specifically saying like it's such a great way to get people to talk nicely about you is when you do, cool things for them.
Yeah,
and like that was very unique and was like a fun time. Like,
yeah,
like that was and like again, like I think blogging is kind of like the blogging community in and of itself is just like petered out to the extent that like they don't have that same like the reason to do it isn't there so much anymore, which is too bad. But like it was a cool initiative that they did. It really was.
Yeah, that actually does remind me because I remember that blogger summit specifically. It almost felt like there was an attempted intervention about like complaining about game presentation.
It was everyone sat in a circle. That's right.
Yeah. No, I felt like there were like pointed comments directed at no one in particular, that kind of thing. It is interesting, like in hindsight, I don't necessarily disagree with a lot of what I like necessarily thought or like the point behind a lot of like the intention of what I was getting at on a lot of things that I would like complain about. But it is interesting, like looking back now, having like more professional experience and seeing it in a different organization and with the balance times, like you kind of understand more as to how things work in a lot of ways, where it's like you can't necessarily just complain about a video or a graphic or something like that without knowing like, all right, well, maybe whoever designed this had like to do this and this for sponsorship. Like you don't necessarily like grasp that until you like see that in production. So I feel like I could have. I feel like I wish I would have had more, experience and more in-depth knowledge then. Like I still stand behind like a lot of the ideas, and it's, I mean, will surprise no one that I still complain to people within our organization about like, hey, we should play this song, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the proudest moments of my time here was
Very on brand for you.
yeah, one of my proudest moments was the playoffs last year. Like I texted one of our people in game presentation, like, "Yo, can you please play 45 by the Gaslight Anthem?"
And they played it.
They played it, and
awesome.
I searched on Twitter, and multiple people tweeted like, "Oh, the Preds are playing Gaslight Anthem. That's cool." It's like I would like favorited all of them and like tagged. It's
yeah,
like,
see,
yes,
you can
yes,
take
right.
you can take the boy out of the blog, but you can't take the blog out of the boy. That's what we've learned.
Yeah. I mean, leopard can't change its spots.
Exactly. All right, let's wrap up. Eric, I appreciate you doing this. This was a good time reminiscing.
Yeah, no, I
Very good
appreciate. I'm so glad that the Instigator brand is, forged on. I still think it's kind of bogus that they went and took our brilliant name and repurposed for themselves without giving full credit to the originators. Like they haven't even had you on, have they?
No, I ran into Petey once in a post game. Maybe it was like a prospect game thing. He's like, "Hey, do you want to come on the show?" I was like, "Yeah, man, let me know." Like, I don't care. And then it never happened. But like, Petey was always cool about it. Like, I DM'd him the other, when he started his podcast. I was like, gave him a hard time. I'm like, "You didn't want to call us from the Instigator either." And he's like, "No, we don't have to use your name this time. Sorry about that." So
he wasn't gonna steal two in the box for that one.
Yeah, no, they did that with the Amherst, so it's fine.
Yeah. Eventually, they're gonna stop stealing all your good ideas.
Well, I'm out of good ideas, which is the problem. But
all right.
So, all right, Eric.
Yeah. I appreciate you having me on. I'm glad you're still doing it and keeping with it, and hopefully sometime we'll get to do this again and talk about how both our teams are having good playoff runs.
Yeah, if they ever reach the Cup final together, we'll definitely have another podcast for sure.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. I'm not holding my breath for that one.
No, appreciate that. All right, man. Thanks a lot.
All right, see you, buddy.